Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the gripping case of the Morrissey family, where a killer thought he had covered his tracks, not knowing a 5-year-old had survived. Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking details of this harrowing crime and the bravery of a young boy. Before we start, please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to you.
Let me ask you something. Do you know what a lie is? A lie?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's when you don't tell the truth and you do something bad.
And what happens when you tell a lie?
You get in trouble.
The Morrissey residence. On the night of April 5th, 2010, the Morrissey family's seemingly perfect life was abruptly disrupted. Joe Morrissey had settled in front of the TV, unwinding after a long day, while his wife Kay was busy working in her craft room. Their young son, Patrick, was tucked away in bed in the master bedroom, sound asleep. Suddenly, their quiet evening was shattered by a violent break-in. Intruders forcibly entered their home, creating chaos and terror. Joe and Kay were subjected to a harrowing ordeal. The attackers used zip ties to restrain them, rendering them helpless. As the home invasion unfolded, Patrick, only 5 years old, woke up to the frightening sounds of his parents' desperate cries. He lay in bed paralyzed with fear, listening to the terrifying events transpire in the other rooms. The intruders' actions were brutal and methodical, turning the Morrissey home from a safe haven into a scene of horror. The police and fire trucks that arrived at the scene were met with a grim sight, a house scarred by violence and flames, reflecting the intensity of the crime and the ensuing chaos. The invasion had not only left a physical mark on the home, but also deeply affected the lives of everyone involved.
Plantation Police Department, can help you?
Requesting a dispatch on a residential fire alarm.
The resident's last name?
Morrissey.
I was about to not answer it, and something told me to pick up the phone.
She was just like, you have to come here, you have to get here right now. I saw her standing in the middle of the road in her pajamas, completely covered in blood, and I just remember thinking how small she looked and how helpless she looked. I thought she was talking about the people who had gotten to the house, and I said, it's okay, they'll find them, and she goes, no, Joe is gone, they killed him.
Christina Morrissey. Christina Morrissey, Kay's daughter, lived just 10 minutes away. She was jolted away by a frantic phone call from her mother. Arriving at the scene, she found her mother in shock, covered in blood, and learned the horrifying news that her stepfather, Joe, had been murdered. Upon receiving the call, Christina, her heart racing with anxiety, quickly dressed and rushed to the scene. As she approached her mother's house, the sight of flashing police lights and fire trucks confirmed her worst fears. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of the fire that had partially consumed their home. Christina parked hastily and ran towards the house, her mind racing with concern for her family. She found her mother Kay standing with a paramedic, her clothes stained with blood and her face a mask of shock and grief. The normally strong and composed Kay was now trembling, barely able to stand. Christina embraced her mother, feeling the coldness of her skin and the dampness of the blood that covered her. Through choked sobs, Kay recounted the horrifying events of the night, detailing the violent home invasion, the brutal assault on Joe, and the terror they experienced. As Christina listened, her eyes darted around the chaotic scene, searching for any sign of her stepfather. When she asked about Joe, the look on her mother's face said it all. The paramedic confirmed the devastating news. Joe had been killed. The realization hit Christina like a tidal wave, overwhelming her with a mix of grief, anger, and helplessness. In that moment, Christina knew that their lives would never be the same. She vowed to support her mother and young half-brother Patrick through the dark days ahead. But the immediate shock of the tragedy left her reeling, struggling to comprehend the senseless violence that had shattered their family.
It might be just easier to start with what happened from the beginning last night.
I was in my craft room and the TV was on and I heard a noise like something fall down.
All right, Patrick, let me ask you something. All right?
Yeah.
Do you know what a lie is? A lie?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's when you don't tell the truth and you do something bad.
And what happens when you tell a lie?
You get in trouble.
I know earlier you said you knew something about some robbers or something?
Yeah.
What
A
happened?
robber attacked our house and my dad died.
Patrick Morrissey. 5-year-old Patrick Morrissey was the only witness to the crime. Despite his young age, he became the key to solving the case. In his interview, Patrick's innocence and the trauma he endured were evident. During the interview, Patrick sat in a room with investigators, his small frame seeming even smaller under the harsh lights. As he spoke, he recounted the events he had witnessed, though his understanding of the situation was limited by his age. Patrick described how he had been asleep in his parents' bedroom when he was suddenly awakened by loud noises and the sound of his parents screaming. With a child's clarity, Patrick mentioned that he had seen a man in their house who was shouting and threatening his parents. He told the investigators that the man had tied up his mom and dad so they couldn't move. He described the man as holding a gun and being very scary. Patrick also remembered seeing his parents being forced into their bedroom and then into the living room, where he could hear his father pleading for their safety. One of the most poignant moments was when Patrick shared that he was so frightened he stayed in bed, pretending to sleep, hoping not to be noticed. He recounted that after the man took his dad away, he could hear his mom crying and a fire starting in the house. Patrick's small voice, filled with fear, provided critical details about the home invasion, even though he couldn't fully understand the gravity of the situation. Patrick's descriptions were crucial as they provided investigators with a detailed account of what had happened inside the house, leading them to uncover the truth behind the brutal crime.
All right, Patrick. Let me ask you something. All right?
Yeah.
Do you know what a lie is? A lie?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's when you don't tell the truth and you do something bad.
What happens when you tell a lie?
You get in trouble.
I know earlier you said you knew something about some robbers or something?
Yeah.
What
A
happened?
robber attacked our house and my dad died.
Did you see? Were you awake when this happened, or were you sleeping?
Sleeping.
You-
But I woke up myself.
Oh yeah, and when you woke,
And he put a gun on my mom and dad's head.
What is a lie? In a heartbreaking interview, 5-year-old Patrick was asked about what he understood a lie to be. The question, simple and direct, was meant to gauge his understanding of honesty and deceit. Patrick, with his innocent perspective, explained that a lie is when someone doesn't tell the truth and does something bad. He added that telling a lie results in getting in trouble. This exchange, though seemingly straightforward, was a crucial moment. It provided a glimpse into Patrick's young mind and how he was processing the traumatic events he had witnessed. The clarity with which he described the concept of lying contrasted sharply with the confusion and horror he must have felt that night. His innocent definitions were part of piecing together the disturbing reality of the violent crime he had seen. This interview marked the start of revealing the full extent of what Patrick experienced. Despite his young age, his testimony would become a key element in understanding the sequence of events during the brutal home invasion and the impact it had on him.
The guy that is renting the townhouse is suing us because he said he slept on the stairs. He has a history of being a professional tenant.
Detective Kendall. Detective Kendall from the Plantation Police Department was tasked with solving the Morrissey case. His investigation led him to Randy Tundador Sr.'s home. When Kendall arrived, he found Tundador Sr., who appeared frail and unwell. The man was wearing an oxygen mask and had a noticeable limp, which made him seem physically incapable of carrying out such a brutal crime. Despite this initial impression, Kendall had to investigate thoroughly. Tundador Sr. had a reputation for being a professional tenant, meaning he had a history of disputes with landlords, which raised some suspicion. Kendall's job was to ensure that every lead was checked, regardless of how unlikely it seemed. The goal was to confirm or rule out any potential suspects based on evidence and witness statements.
Have you ever had any dealings with Mr. Morrissey other than being a tenant?
Yeah, well, right now I'm suing him because I fell down the stairs in the house because of lack of repairs. He stopped talking to me because of the lawsuit. When I met him, he seemed like a gentleman.
What time did you come home last night?
I was home most of the night.
Did you call anybody?
Actually, my son called me. He needed a buddy, but I won't help him.
Which son?
Randy Jr. First off, he's wanted by the law. Secondly, this is a crack addict.
Interview. During the investigation, detectives spent hours interviewing Randy Tundador Jr. He was calm and cooperative, but his insistence on his innocence raised suspicions. The detectives were skeptical of his claims, and as they continued their questioning, they struggled to connect him directly to the crime. Despite Randy Jr.'s claims of innocence, the evidence was mounting against him. The real breakthrough came when his younger brother, Sean Tundador, decided to come forward with crucial information. Sean's revelation was shocking. He claimed that their father, Randy Tundador Sr., was actually the mastermind behind the murder. Sean's confession turned the investigation upside down. He told the detectives that his father, not his brother, had orchestrated the entire crime. According to Sean, Randy Sr. had manipulated Randy Jr. into committing the robbery and murder, promising him drugs and cash in exchange. This bombshell led to renewed scrutiny of Randy Sr. and set the stage for further investigation into his role in the brutal home invasion. Sean's statement was a pivotal moment in the case, leading to a deeper investigation into Randy Sr.'s activities and ultimately revealing the true perpetrator behind the horrific crime. The confession. Sean Tundador's confession revealed that his father, Randy Tundador Sr., was the mastermind behind the brutal home invasion and murder of Joe Morrissey. Sean disclosed how Randy Sr. had manipulated his eldest son, Randy Jr., into carrying out the crime. In his confession, Sean described how Randy Sr. had used his influence over Randy Jr., promising him money and drugs in exchange for breaking into the Morrissey home. Sean's father had specifically targeted Randy Jr., knowing his addiction made him more susceptible to manipulation. Sean's revelation was crucial because it exposed the depth of Randy Sr.'s involvement. Realizing that Randy Sr. was behind the crime, Sean decided to take a brave step to gather further evidence. He agreed to wear a hidden recording device, a wire, to capture conversations with his father that could provide undeniable proof of his involvement in the crime. The recording device was disguised as a car key, and Sean used it during a tense 2-hour conversation with Randy Sr. In this conversation, Sean pretended to be concerned about his father's well-being while subtly probing for incriminating statements. Despite the risks, Sean was determined to uncover the truth and ensure justice for Joe Morrissey and his family. Sean's bravery in recording his father's admissions played a key role in gathering evidence that ultimately led to Randy Sr.'s arrest and conviction. Gator Tint. During the investigation, police focused on Randy Tundador Sr.'s business, Gator Tint, which was located not far from the Morrissey residence. As officers combed through the premises, they uncovered significant evidence linking Tundador to the crime. Among the items found were tools that matched those used in the invasion. For example, they discovered zip ties similar to those used to restrain Joe and Kay Morrissey. Additionally, they found an empty box for a hunting knife, which was consistent with the type of weapon the attacker had used. Police also recovered several items that had been stolen from the Morrissey home. This included foreign currency and other valuables that had been reported missing. The presence of these stolen goods at Gator Tint provided a direct link between the crime scene and Tundador's business. These findings were crucial for the investigation, as they established a clear connection between Randy Tundador Sr. and the brutal home invasion that led to Joe Morrissey's murder. The trial begins. As the trial began, the courtroom was shown harrowing footage from Patrick Morrissey's interview with the police. This footage was crucial in presenting the case against the accused. Patrick, only 5 years old at the time of the crime, had been interviewed by detectives shortly after the incident. During his interview, Patrick described the traumatic events he witnessed that night. His innocent but detailed account helped paint a clear and heartbreaking picture of the night's events for the jury. In the courtroom, the jury watched this footage and listened as Patrick recounted the moments leading up to and following the attack. They saw Patrick's account of how he had heard his parents screaming, saw them being forced into the master bedroom, and how he saw the man threatening them with a gun. The jury also learned about Joe Morrissey's last moments as he tried desperately to protect his family, even as he was being taken away by the intruder. This footage was particularly moving because it showed Joe Morrissey's bravery and love for his family. Despite his own life being in danger, Joe's final actions were aimed at ensuring his family's safety. The jury could see how Joe Morrissey fought for his loved ones right up until the end, adding a layer of emotional depth to the trial and underscoring the tragedy of the crime. The verdict. The verdict was delivered with a sense of closure for the Morrissey family. Randy Tundador Jr., the son who was involved in the home invasion, received a 40-year prison sentence. His father, Randy Tundador Sr., who orchestrated the crime, was sentenced to death for his role in the brutal murder. The court's decision marked the end of a long and painful legal battle for the Morrisseys. The trial was emotionally charged, with the jury hearing about the traumatic events of April 5, 2010, and the devastating impact on the Morrissey family. The verdict was a moment of justice, but it couldn't erase the deep emotional wounds left by the crime. Patrick, the young hero of the story, showed incredible courage that night. His quick thinking and bravery in rescuing his mother and helping the police led to the eventual capture and conviction of the Tundadors. Despite his young age, Patrick's actions were pivotal in bringing the criminals to justice. After the trial, Kay and Patrick continued to cope with their loss and the changes in their lives. They found strength in each other and keeping Joe's memory alive. Patrick's resilience despite the trauma he endured and Kay's determination to move forward highlighted their profound strength and the support they gave one another through the aftermath of the tragedy. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments what you think about this case and the incredible bravery of young Patrick Morrissey. Stay tuned for true crime stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay safe and take care.